Hello, I'm Alvin Garcia for thebuttonsmashers.com, and here is our review for Masquerada Songs and Shadows. Masquerada Songs and Shadows seems to be a bit of an oddity. Not often have I seen a game take place in a Renaissance fantasy world. Sure, there are games where players are in the Renaissance, like in Assassin's Creed 2, but that's a bit more grounded. There's also a level in Dishonored where Corvo is out to neutralize Lady Boyle at a fancy shindig, but Masquerada fully embraces this setting, while creating its own rich set of lore that you can get lost in. You can feel the history radiating from the varied places you visit throughout the game. There's also diction that just adds to the mystique. The Sixth Canticle, the War of Bearings, Dementicate, and the Eteria Merimento and Mecantare. It's a lot to take in at first, trying to keep these historical names and groups in order, but hearing this kind of lexicon really makes you feel like a foreigner on foreign shores, where every first-hand experience of the culture won't sink in immediately. While Masquerada didn't hook me in from the onset, especially with the seemingly deep reservoirs of its world's chronicles, the more I played, the more the game opened up. The first couple of hours stumbled a little bit, but once I got to know the main characters, acquired more powerful skills, and got waist deep into the political intrigue, I became invested with the story. It's a weird combination, yes, fantasy and Renaissance, but it works, and it works pretty well.
We did it, sires. We're in.
Save your relief, Amadea. We're not out of the flames yet.
Masquerada takes place in a wonderfully imagined Venetian city, the turmoil-ridden City della Ombre. It's a place where songs are sung for one's deeds, giving them a lasting legacy after one's death. As long as one has the slightest amount of power, they'll do whatever they can for their songs to live on through the generations. And this power comes in the form of the Masquerines, essentially masks that grant their wielders the ability to conjure the destructive elements of air, earth, fire, and water. In the middle of all this, you'll follow the story of Cicero Guevara, who has been summoned back to Ombre to investigate the disappearance of a diplomat named Razatov Azris. Soon you'll meet members of the Masquerada that will join Cicero on his journey, each with their own backgrounds and personal secrets.
We need to get Razatov back from the mask runners.
As you can see, Masquerada utilizes an isometric view for exploration and combat. Each party member gets their own set of mostly unique skills that they can acquire as the story progresses. Each skill has a set of nodes that can be further developed. For instance, with Cicero, he can add more focus regeneration, which is the bar that depletes with each use of elemental magic. In certain sections, you'll have to choose one of two nodes to continue developing the skill, giving the player a choice of how to build a skill set for that character. Seeing as I chose the Earth element for Cicero, the skill, Earthen Blade, could be chosen to have Taunt or Invigorate. With Taunt, a non-Earth elemental tag, of which I'll explain tags in a moment, activates, and the target will be forced to attack Cicero for 3 seconds. If I chose Invigorate, Cicero will recover 20% of his maximum focus and mass charge whenever an Earth tag is activated. So let's talk about combat. It reminds me a lot of Dragon Age Origins. The basic attack is used by pressing R2, and the skills that you decide to acquire will appear on the 4 face buttons. Of course, there are more abilities to gain to swap in and out as you see fit. As the more skills are developed, there are certain skills that each party member can use that inflicts an elemental tag on an enemy. If that tag is activated with another skill, additional effects are invoked. For example, at the start of the game, you're tasked to use Coldstream Wash as Cyrus. This applies a water tag to an enemy, and when he uses his signature move, the Ice Blade, the damage dealt will be more significant. So using this system, it's possible to set up some devastating attacks. And throughout all this chaos, you can pause combat at any time to give yourself a tactical advantage. Now I paused a lot when I played Dragon Age Origins, so you can imagine that I do the same in Masquerada, especially with the harder battles that require positioning the squad away from enemy attack circles and lines. You can also set the AI to do specific things with their skills that include which ones to use more often, and activation under certain conditions. It feels pretty robust, and with the right skills and AI parameters, the party can feel like a well-oiled machine. You can even disable AI and micromanage the use of every skill for all your party members, if that's your thing. Of course, I can't talk about the combat without Masquerines. During your travels, you'll find raw Masquerines, brand new ones other than your default mask, and they must first be decorated before they can be activated, and lucky for us, they're decorated on behalf of the Tavath twins, your carriage drivers.
Sir.
Though it will take a little time before this point in the game is reached. These new masks give you different super abilities depending on which one you wear. For instance, the Quagmire mask surrounds Cicero in an aura that reduces enemy movement and attack by 25%, while the Grotesque mask makes you stationary like a rock as you heal. Each party member has their own set of masks as well, giving the entire group numerous possibilities for these battle-shifting powers.
Come on out, little girl.
Get away!
Leave her alone.
It was during a dialogue sequence with Calden Azris in the small town of Saleheart where I actually began caring for these fully voiced characters. The voice acting is amazing, by the way. It was a very personal conversation that Cicero had with Calden that surprised Cicero, but it was also full of acceptance. The voice acting was done with great care, and I really felt the turmoil that Calden was feeling. The initial meeting with Calden was a simple matter of revenge, but as the main story beats progressed, Calden opens up more, and we even get to see a slice of the life that he lives.
Office.
Cicero.
The way they were guarding it reminds me of those in the class.
Cicero!
With Amedea Invidius, a spear-wielding, ruin-spelunking recluse, she's developed a mercenary attitude toward relationships, so when it came to a tragic event that happened to her during the story, it was such a contrast seeing her in emotional anguish. I felt that pain, her loss, her sadness, and for someone who usually responded in short answers, I was genuinely worried as to how she would move on from that, and I wanted to look out for her well-being. So much so I decided to always have her in my party and make sure to have dialogue with her before missions. That's crazy, right? But it was my reaction to her grief. Of course, there are more members that make up this investigative party, including the golden-armored Tiziana De Felici and the shadowy Vasco Tessitore. As you begin to get to know the team you've assembled, you start understanding them, where they came from, their motivations, their thoughts, and I feel that's tantamount to creating a well-knit, cohesive party that you want to stay by until the end.
And answers he has given.
I'm not one to really know about the various Renaissance styles throughout the ages, but the word I use to describe the look of the game is classical, especially when it comes to the architecture of the innards of the White Spire. The lines are clean and deliberate and just look very neat in general. The decorative aspects are great, almost as if I was there staring at the lines in fine detail. There's symmetry, proportion, and geometry in the designs that gives Masquerada a hand-drawn aesthetic. While other areas aren't as awe-inspiring as the White Spire, the rest of the varied locales you visit are just as gorgeous, even if some areas are shadowy and decrepit. But that's a testament to the great art direction Masquerade Houses. Highlights include purple caverns with glowing crystals on the walls with the color range of a rainbow, overgrown ruins with the mysterious etchings, villages with seedy gangs and dirt roads, beautiful courtyards with slowly falling leaves, and so much more. And while each area is mostly linear, there's still room to stray off the beaten path to find raw masquerines, lore spots, and even cats chasing rats. Eventually, when you gather enough party members, you'll be taken to the Stiguary, a base of sorts where you can talk to your party members, train and reset skills, have the twins make new masks, and choose the makeup of your group when you decide to head out. It's a lovely place that looks like a vacation house, with an amazing garden on the outside, and a bar on the inside adorned with wooden trim. Of course, the graphics extend to the characters themselves, as they are all highly detailed with fancy clothes, decorative armors, and bold lines that really bring them to life. And those bosses, wow! Their animations are superb and provide a nice challenge. Early on, the triplet fight was a standout, and about midway through, a struggle with a giant rooted tree shows the scale the game can capture. There are many more boss battles in these watercolored painted landscapes, and each location is a treat for the eyes. A small nitpick, though, is that the PS4's frame rates can stutter at times with a lot of action on the screen, while the PC version Q-Played maintains a smooth experience. Initially, I was hesitant on the Renaissance setting, but it goes to show that if effort is made in creating a vast world with rich and interesting lore, it makes the experience like a book, where I wanted to immerse myself fully. And all this is wrapped up in some fairly competent squad-based gameplay, and beautifully realized hand-painted graphics. Masquerada, Songs and Shadows, surprised me. I was expecting something on the boring side, but what I got was an interesting story and characters that I cared about. Plus the masks. The masks are pretty cool. Thank you for watching this review of Masquerade Songs and Shadows. If you like this review, make sure to leave us a like and a comment to let us know what you think about the game.